everyone, this is Dan Midgarin. The Sunday nights are off this week, but we'll soon return. In the meantime, here's a segment we like to call Mid-Gaming, where we interview the cast about anything and everything. We hope you enjoy, and we'll be back soon with our new story, The Dunes of Akal. Now, without further ado...
What'd you guys think of the beginning? What'd you guys think about being thrown out of an airplane? That was fun, I thought.
Geronimo?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, Geronimo moments.
It's always fun getting thrown out of planes. I never complain about that.
None of you were thrown out of planes besides me. I don't know what you guys are talking about. You all jumped. You all willingly went.
I just have a few questions that I wrote down, and I just want to just go through it a little bit. My first question is for Poe, honestly. It's where did you get the inspiration for your character?
The inspiration for my character, I literally just looked up Dungeons and Dragons on Google and was just like going through all the images, and I ran into second edition Unearthed Arcana by Gary Gygax. And I got the image of that guy, and also it helped because you can never choose what character to make, so I went with one that isn't made. No one knows his backstory, because he doesn't know his backstory.
That's not entirely true, as we actually know bits and pieces of your backstory. But the best part is that
I don't.
You asked me and a couple of the other players to write part of your backstory. So you don't know your backstory, and... So my question, I guess, is, are you looking forward to the big reveal later on?
Is there a big reveal? I don't know. Poe's just here to have a good time and to make money for some reason. He isn't really sure why he's here.
We are
He's a million-year-old demon.
But Brian is very excited for the special reveal. I'm assuming there is one.
Yes.
You assume incorrectly.
I hope all this work of me putting no work into it will pay off.
The big reveal is that there is nothing. Good day, sir.
Post player actually messaged me. He goes, "Hey, I let my girlfriend pick like all my skills and stuff. So I have like carpentry stuff. Can I carve stuff?" I'm like, "Sure, that's fine."
I let her pick my skills, too, at random. Pretty good performance, some medicine, history, and this one I did pick. I picked Old Man Stealth.
Old Man Stealth?
He isn't hiding behind boxes. People don't pay attention to old people walking.
Gotcha.
And that's his form of stealth.
Okay. Sergio, you seem to be a very straightforward paladin. Like, you read the backstories like that Miro and Sorinar and Poe posted. Why do you think Sergio is with all these probably criminals? This very noble paladin of Cord.
Well, Sergio is very much the big picture kind of guy. You know, more like, you know, a let the city burn to save the nation type. You know, idealism. You know, traveling with what may be a group of criminals is, you know, a means to an end. You know, for the big bounty, the smiting evil, the true evil, as he likes to call it. And I think, you know, that embraces very much what a paladin of vengeance can be if you play correctly. Yeah, he has his personality quirks, you know, for a character. You know, a fear of heights, which he's immediately thrust into. But, you know, as far as class action goes, I think it fits perfectly. You know, there's a bit of, he's not serious all the time, but he knows what his job is, and I think that's important to remember when playing this character.
Okay. Speaking of your fear of heights, was that a pre-planned thing? I told a lot of people what was going on. I told some people, like, hey, we're going to start in a plane, but did your fear of heights, was that an impulse thing? It's like, oh, my character is now afraid of heights and I got to jump out of a plane. Or is this something like that you thought of beforehand?
Oh, that was 100% improvised. I mean, I saw the door open and I just went through it.
Okay.
Is that something you in real life have?
No, I'm claustrophobic in real life. I can, you know, I'm more than happy to do the whole jumping out of the plane, but you know, something like cave diving or buried alive, that's terrifying.
To say something about that, I've actually been underground in a cave before. Very interesting tour. We went to the Natural Bridge, and there was a tour that you can go underneath the ground, and they took you down, and then all of a sudden, the person that did the tour turned off the lights. And
that's not cool. Not cool at all.
You can't see a thing. It is pitch black. Like the definition of darkness. That is it. We had no cell service. We had no nothing. if this person had decided that we were done with life, she had all the control. Also,
throws on the night vision goggles and just yeets out of there. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, guys, have fun.
also, but I mean, we weren't told, hey, we're going to take you down into the tunnels and then she's going to turn off the lights. We weren't told that. We were just saying, hey, would you like to see some caverns? I was like, yeah, because stalactites are awesome. And then
I'm more of a stalagmite guy.
and then a kid says, it's like, did they find any dinosaur bones? And the lady then went to tell us that she did not believe the dinosaurs existed.
What?
Wow.
And
She's one of those people.
my first thought was, wow. My second thought is, this lady is the only one that knows the exits. I'm not going to say a damn thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to stare straight ahead. And once we get topside, then I'll make my judgments. But for right now, whatever she wants to say, she can say whatever she wants. She's fine.
Apparently
What a
tour guide
great way
and
to use
archaeologist
social
are not the
control.
same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Sorinar, you have a very interesting little backstory, and you have a very interesting item that doesn't really go with your class that well. Would you like to expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, so I created my character. He was actually a second character I made. My initial one was supposed to be a druid, and all of his powers and spells and everything came from the water. And then you said, hey, by the way, we're nowhere near the water. And I was like, okay, let me rethink this. So
I'd just like to point out that the map of Eberron is available, and I said, hey, we're in Breland, and then we're going to this other territory. And if you look on the map, nowhere near there's water. There's nowhere near there's water. And so everybody was starting giving me nautical like backstories. I'm like, and then I was like, okay, well, we're changing this to airships, and that's what we're going with. We're doing airships now.
yeah, and that's perfectly fine. So it was go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
But I've been playing D&D for probably about 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And so playing the archetypical stuff, while fun, I like having the juxtaposition of big, giant, hulking dude who's all about his deity and being spiritual. And then what is really cool about Eberron is Eberron has this technology aspect to it.
Yes.
So what if he praises technology in a sense? So you have this race who was raised on strength and smashing rocks and fighting, and my guy's all about investigating and dealing with tools and tinkering with stuff and devices. And I was like, that's really cool. And then we were told that we were able to equip a magic item, and I was like, well, what if the magic item he found was something that made him the way that he is? And I found a headband of intellect, which makes me an intelligence much higher than it normally would be. And so I was kind of inspired by the episode of Futurama with the monkey with the smart hat that throws it on. And so it throws on the intellect and it's like, hey, I'm not about, smashing people anymore. I can still do that. That's my heritage and stuff, but I want to know about tools and give praise to intellect and the thought of intellect. And Eberron has a lot of really cool side things that go with that, as well as, the background stories.
Okay.
I've never seen anybody build a character like that. That's really, really interesting to see that take on a character from Eberron.
Yeah. So, Miro, we play in a different game. A couple of you play in different games with me. My favorite character from you is Volan, which is a very innocent, doesn't know anything about the world. And then Miro, which is very like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you relate more to Volan? He's like, oh, very, very like, I'm really like more wilderness and I don't really know a lot about society. Or do you feel it more like Miro, which is like, I'm very cynical and, I've lived it all, I've done everything. And what do you say does pale in comparisons to what I'm doing? Where do you find yourself on that like scale of 1 to 10?
I don't know. Is it weird to say I'm both?
No, it's not weird at all.
I don't know. For Volan, who is very like the innocent and that kind of thing, I'm kind of socially awkward. So navigating a lot of the world in terms of like understanding people or like reading signals or like, for me, it's very much, oh, so this is the thing that we're supposed to do. Okay. I did not get that at all. Like the radar is like tilted 5 ways. You get what I mean? Like
Yeah. No,
sometimes it's difficult to read people, so having that side of my personality is instinctive because I just let that part loose in a sense. Like I just act kind of crazy and curious because I enjoy learning things. So if I combine like me not knowing things with wanting to learn things, I can really embrace Volan. And also like my desire to like hang out with people because I do occasionally enjoy like spending time with other people. So taking those parts of my personality, I can put that into Volan, and it's a lot of fun to just let that go loose. But on the other hand, with Muriel, I am also very cynical because just it's difficult to be, I guess, an adult in just the world nowadays without becoming jaded, without becoming cynical. And it's fun to just let that loose in the form of like a cantankerous old bat. And when I rolled my stats, one of the stats was a 5. So I'm like, where do I put that? And so I was like, the best place to put it is in charisma.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, okay, playing like a low charisma character can go very badly very quickly because I don't want to ever make any of the other players feel like they are not welcome or not comfortable or just be mean in general. So I wanted to play it like that old bitter person on like those sitcoms that everybody just loves to kind of hate a little bit but understands. I guess long story short,
the Arthur and the Golden Girls.
Yeah. So basically just allowing different parts of letting different parts of my personality just loose, just have fun. Like when I'm playing Muriel, I get to be cynical and bitter and angry and smoke cigarettes, which is something that I wouldn't do in real life. But as Volan, I get to be bright-eyed and curious and excited for the world. So it's actually pretty nice and stress relieving. Yeah, at the end of the day. Glad I had these moments with you guys. Thank you for letting me share my story.
Fantastic. So this is
I love you guys so much.
This is just kind of a general question for everybody. And anybody can speak up. If you don't want to, that's fine. What was it that got you into Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop role playing entirely? You know, there's different games out there. What was oh, I have to try this, or you know, or it's like, oh, this was the defining moment. It's like, yes, I am now a D&D nerd. What was the defining factor for you?
So I have an interesting story on this.
Sure.
I've always been a little bit nerdy, but I always told myself when I was younger, I wouldn't play World of Warcraft and I wouldn't play Dungeons and Dragons because there was that stigma of, you know, the neckbeards and the super nerds and stuff like that. And, you know, I didn't want to be affiliated with that. And I'm a military vet and I was actually deployed and I was overseas and I'm in the like common room and I'm playing video games and stuff, and a bunch of Army Rangers, like muscles on muscles dudes, come in and they're like, "Hey, do you mind turning that off for a bit? We're about to play Dungeons and Dragons." And I was like, "Okay." And so I was like, "Can I like sit in and listen on you guys?" And they're talking about like scissor kicking dragons in the face and all kinds of like awesomeness. And I was like, "Hey, how often you guys do this?" And they're like, "We're in here every week." And so I ended up joining them, and that was my introduction to D&D. And then when I got out of the military, I kind of shared it with my friends and spread it out and stuff like that, and it's been a big part of my life ever since.
That's really cool. Anybody else?
My deep dark D&D backstory. It starts off when I was a wee child. Actually, you all adopted D&D. I was born into it. Actually, my dad played like the original like white box kind of Dungeons and Dragons set. Like he started playing that in college. It's actually how he met my mom. He was playing D&D with my uncle, and my mom wanders and is like, "She's hot. It's my sister. Can I date her?" Sure. And that's how that started. But like ever since I was little, I have 4 sisters. So that's a D&D group right there. So we played Castles and Crusades. We played all these sorts of things. I only really got into 5e when I was in college, and I started off a little bit there, and then I kind of got out of it for a little bit, and now I'm back. Actually, thanks to some IRL games with some people. So it's just sort of been something I've done for a while, and I've just always enjoyed it because I get to explore new worlds. I get to meet usually a lot of really fantastic people, and it's always fun to see like where DMs interpret the rules or where players go with everyone's, and I just enjoy the hobby overall. I've met some of my best friends playing Dungeons and Dragons, so yeah.
Yeah, actually, what got me started in D&D actually laid the foundation for meeting some of the greatest people I never had the privilege to know. I mean, I met my best friend and his large group of friends, and they actually had to convince me and argue me into the ground to get me to play. But because I was also one of those people that, that thought that D&D carried a stigma of being a dude that doesn't shower and, has no girlfriend and lives in his mother's basement. They talked me into it when 3.5 was still really, really, really popular before 5th edition came out. And my first inkling was to play a wizard. And they were like, maybe don't start with that. So I started out playing a rogue. And I absolutely fell in love with the game from there. In fact, after that, I was pretty much like asking our group of friends, are we playing this weekend? Are we playing this weekend? What's up? And it just led to a life adventure after that of meeting the most amazing group of people. So D&D has done a lot for me, and it sparks a lot of creativity, and I think a lot of people underestimate that. They judge before they get into it, but give it time. I think tabletop gaming is actually back on the rise, and it's going to go really high.
All right. Anybody else?
I suppose I will go. Nothing really important. I had the classic 4th edition introduction in college, and then all my friends always suck because I had to host all the games. No one had the balls to DM and learn the rules. So I just ran game after game after game, just telling people who were like, "Oh no, it's like nerdy," and I'm like, "Shut the f*** up. Slay this dragon with me." And they're like, okay. I've DM'd for a gauntlet of people since day one, and everyone knows it. It's great. I love it. I spent so much money on it, but
you're not kidding.
Oh, yeah, that is not even a lie.
I have my toilet paper holder is a dragon.
Oh wow!
Oh my gosh!
That's how much dumb money I've spent on this addiction.
I don't even want to talk about how much money I've spent on dice alone, let alone
dice.
tiles.
It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now that you guys have realized there's a problem, we can start to address the problem, and we'll meet back here next week.
The problem is I want more. I want so much more.
I want the world.
Heroin.
The whole world.
Just grind down the dice and snort it through your nose.
Soon enough, having that stuff to go with it's not enough. You have to have a whole room dedicated just to the game.
Here's how bad it is. If we knew for a fact that if we snorted dusted up dice would give us criticals, we would 100% do it. That's we know it's bad for
no questions asked. Absolutely, no questions asked. I would do it.
There is no high that can compare to me for being in the clutch where everything's going to and you get that critical roll that just brings everything back where you slay the big baddie or whatever.
AKA Muriel's this is how you get things done.
Yeah.
You know what? Do you mind if I ask you a question really quick? Do you guys remember your very first critical?
No.
No, I don't. Honestly.
Yeah.
There's just so many that happened. It's impossible to keep track of them all.
I can tell you the first game I've ever played. I can tell you really cool
encounter with a DM.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man. I think we can all attest to that.
Hey, I was a great DM. You leave me.
You were fantastic. You are
No,
fantastic.
I remember going into a gaming convention Pathfinder game, and it's 8:00 in the morning, and the DM is drinking. And it's like,
That's
Wow.
the best.
and
Oh, this game's going to hell already.
yeah, and I was 10 at the time, and I'm looking at him,
Oh.
and his dad is standing like at the other table over, and he's like passing him the beer, and it's like my dad is also there, and I look at him, and he looks at me, and I'm like, this is gonna be fun. That was an interesting game.
That's unfortunate.
Background narrator. It was not fun.
I've had DMs that are like really big into the animes. Like okay, fully above board. I watch anime. I love anime. I love the shonen anime. Like just watching a big stupid fight. That is amazing. Like I will do that.
Well
I do that a lot.
It doesn't transfer to D&D that well.
It does not transfer to D&D that well. And trying to, I think like
guys are stupid.
I think the issue I had was this was 3.5. We were like I think second level, and he wanted to give us like epic level weapons. It's like
That takes the fun out of it.
It does take the fun. Here's how bad I was so against that. I took my epic level weapon and I sold it.
Sold it for drugs.
I think we all can tell you some like drastically bad.
This one beats all other bad DM stories.
Go
This
ahead.
guy had a power fantasy.
Oh.
It was atrocious. This guy, he showed up hours late, even though he said he'd be there. He's like, I'll be there in 10 minutes. 30 minutes pass. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Another 20, he'd show up. We played a pirate campaign, and he played a character, our captain, in it. And I'm like, all right, our captain who sends us on missions, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
He played his own homebrew character and would just one-shot everything.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like being Krillin versus Cell, and you're hanging out with Goku. You're like, why the am I here? Like,
Yeah.
And that is kind of the issue.
He blew up a ship. At first level, he had the ability to blow up half of a pirate ship with a blast. And we're just like,
that's a little ridiculous.
what are we doing here?
So I guess
walk around with it too. Like, we couldn't do anything he doesn't suggest, even though he's the DM and he created the mystery. God, I hate that guy. I'm gonna say it. It's Joe. That guy. If you ever meet him, punch him in the face.
That's very weird because I played a game.
That's the worst part. He was always late.
I played a game, and it was a pirate campaign. Like, it was one of my first games. It was one of my first games.
What's that with pirates?
Hold up. The guy played a captain, and the captain was a dragon turned into, like, that polymorphed into a human. So we played, and then, but he would go on the adventures with us, and one of the players was, like, his first mate, and the other player was, like, 10 years old. And so, like, the 10-year-old would, like, lie, just outright lie, and say, like, oh, this person did it, this person did it. And the captain would take his side. So my character got like half his face ripped off because of something that the 10-year-old did and said, oh yeah, that was definitely him. I was like, what? Like, how is this fun? How is this fun? Who is this fun for? The 10-year-old?
Yeah.
That's who it's fun for.
Yeah.
Bully sessions, man.
I think some of the worst DMs are the DMs that don't leave any room for for the players to be creative and like help mold the story. Like if the characters make any decision that's outside what the DM has planned at all, like they immediately slap it down or be like, you failed. Like those DMs, they don't let their players do anything, and I think that's horrible.
We got a few more minutes left over. Does anybody have any questions for me, or does anybody have any questions for anybody else?
Yeah, I have a question. What sparked your creativity for the storyline so far?
What start my creativity for this?
Yeah, where do you get your ideas from?
Well, honestly,
it connects and binds us.
The force that connects. Plagiarism. No. So, I guess what really gets I'll read Dungeons and Dragons lore, and then I'll just ask myself questions like, what if it's this way, or what if it's that way, or there's two people that don't like each other. Like what's the cause of it? Or like this one, a noble looking to mass produce a legendary weapon, so why would he send 4 people instead of sending, an entire battalion to go get this piece? Well, he's going across enemy territory. It's political. That's why there's 4 people instead of like an army. Why do they have to jump out of, how are they going to get there? Well, they can't just walk across because then that leaves questions. They can be hunted down, they can be scouted. So I'm going to have them jump out of a plane. Then they're going to be picked up by said plane, and then they're going to go home. So my reasoning for doing this story, that's how it came about, is I wanted to go to a tomb. I wanted them to find something. The reason for that is because someone wants this item so he can reverse engineer it, basically make a bunch of them and, sell them, make a profit. And why is there 4 people instead of an army? Well, this is why, is because if he sent an army, then it could ignite a war. I want to always write a story that a few people are going to be the centerpieces, There's a reason why heroes have to do this instead of, we'll just get anybody to do it.
What's the one race that you just absolutely just abhor out of all the playable races?
I don't know.
Adore or hate? I was wondering.
You hate. My bad.
I have an answer for that as a DM. I have had one person in a party who has been able to play him really, really well, but Kenku.
Okay.
Because Kenkus are so limited by the fact that they are not able to talk and communicate other than through mimicry, that a lot of times they just end up being passive characters. And it's a little bit, not that everyone needs to be on all the time during a game, but it can be a little bit frustrating when you're waiting for people to push forward. And
it definitely does slow down the pace if the person doesn't know how to play it. And
correct.
For me, there's not a race that I absolutely hate, but there are ways of playing a race that I absolutely hate.
Like filthy elves.
Yes. Excuse me.
You heard me, you
those knife-eared those knife-eared mongrels.
They all are full of themselves. Is Muriel full of herself?
I'm actually okay with elves. I'm actually okay with the elven
sympathizer. It's as bad as the elf.
Now, I will say that there are places like in my worlds. There are places that that definitely do not like elves. There are places in my worlds that don't like different races. Like there's human towns, there's human settlements that absolutely will not do business with elves. It's just the way that the players play the characters is that what I have an issue with. Like I hate alignment systems when used in a justification for being an or being a jerk.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. That was part of the reason why I was like, okay, how do I play this lower charisma character? Because I don't want the game to become not fun for other players because my character is, my character. So
that's true. And I do appreciate that you guys are playing characters that play off of other characters.
Yeah.
You guys, you're not.
Sorry, Poe.
We don't have a Mary Sue that's good at everything. You guys are very specialized in your jobs, and the nice part about it is that you're okay with the fact that you guys are specialized. That means you guys can work together and be a coherent group instead of just a bunch of individuals. Well,
coherent group in the loosest definitions.
Of course. All right. I think we have time for one last question. Does anybody have anything?
How much wood could a woodchuck? No.
No.
Woodchuck could have chucked as much wood as woodchuck could chuck wood if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
Oh, okay.
The real question is, will Poe ever regrow his mustache?
Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Look how much the belt of dwarven kind is. I believe it's an uncommon item.
Belt of dwarven kind?
Yes, every dawn you get the chance of regrowing your facial hair with a belt.
Oh my god, yes. I think that should be a homebrew effect. Yes.
Not the beard. Not the beard.
Poor Poe. He's just a Poe boy.
You have to cut the mustache, man.
Yeah.
Oh, the mustache.
Muriel is just gonna laugh at him every time he turns his head and like
he just has one side of his mustache is just missing.
He had the whip snidely mustache and now it's only like one whip.
It was much bushier than that. It was a long bushy wizard robe. I can turn it into Snidely Whiplash now. Like that's all I have to work with.
All right.
Definitely cut down on it a lot, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he has to just go full, just clean shaven. That's all he. That's
Oh,
all he can do now.
ew, clean old man. Gross.
Oh man.
Oh no, you gotta hide all the freaking liver spots with hair. That's why.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
honey.
gross.
Those liver spots aren't hiding.
Oh, Poe is so gross. He's so old.